self-sufficiency rather is integral, but it also comes along with experience, and you definitely have to be ready, willing and able to wear many hats and essentially problem solve on a number of different levels.
Good day, I'm Guy Dankaz, and today it gives me great pleasure to have at our table Todd Bernard, who is the general manager of Torres Media Ottawa, who owns radio station Rebel 101.7, sorry about that, as well as they produce 2 festivals per year, and we'll talk about those in a few minutes. Good day, Todd.
Good morning, Guy.
How are you?
Well, thank you.
Good. I understand that you've been in the radio business for a number of years.
Yeah, I started in 1992 with Torres Media, and what we did in those early days, we operated a company called Skywards Media, which we still continue to operate through to this day. And Skywards Media is a voice content provider for other radio stations across the country. So we'll provide we call them our affiliate radio stations. They're essentially our customers. And we'll provide them with voice content services such as traffic reports, weather reports, news packages, entertainment reports. Out west, we do things like energy sector reports. Here in Ontario, in the winter months, we'll do snowmobile trail condition reports for the Ontario Federation of Snowmobile Clubs. So we source the information on these various products that we offer, and then our announcers at our various offices will compile the source information. They'll voice the particular report in question, consider a traffic report. So they'll get a look at what's going on with the roads, check in with the emergency response providers, public transit authorities, things like that, sort of get an overview of what's happening on the major routes in the given market. They'll then put together typically a 30-second long traffic report, which we will upload to our Skywards website. And our radio station affiliates will then go to the back door of the website, download that content, that traffic report, if we're using that for sake of example, incorporate our report into their automation software, and then run it on air. And that's a service that we've been providing since 1992. Truly across the country. We're in a number of markets, and that business is how myself and my current partners at Torres Media Ottawa essentially cut our teeth in the radio industry. So that was some time ago now. We continue to operate that service through to the present, but it was the segue to our current new ventures, where we own and operate our own brick and mortar standalone radio stations. Great story.
Let's go back in time a little bit now. When you were a boy, were you hoping to be in the radio business?
No, I didn't. I couldn't forecast this is how it would all end up. I'd always I had a couple of different aspirations. I was interested in healthcare, whether it be medicine or dentistry or something along those lines. And then, the kid in me also, I was always enamored by aircraft and flying airplanes, and had aspirations of becoming a commercial pilot one day as well. So I ended up, doing my post-secondary education at the University of Toronto, where I studied life sciences for 4 years there. Then I went on to Seneca College of Applied Arts and Technology at the Don Mills campus in North York, and got my commercial pilot credentials. So I got my commercial pilot license, multi-engine endorsement, and instrument flight rating. After which I began, humbly towing aerial signage for Skywards, which the sister division of Skywards Media, we in the past operated an aerial advertising service where we would tow banners behind Cessna 172 aircraft, fly night signs, things like this. So that's how I began with Torres Media, was a humble banner pilot. That segued into airborne traffic reporting, and the rest, as they say, is kind of history. So that was the precipitation of the radio career was through flying aerial advertising and then becoming an airborne traffic reporter. We operated Cessna 172 aircraft over Toronto and provided aerial surveillance services.
So how have you prepared yourself from flying an aircraft with a banner or following you to management, becoming the general manager of a radio station?
Well, when we expanded in 1994, the Toronto operations of Skywards, both Skywards Media, which was the radio component, and Skywards Aerial Advertising, I came out to Ottawa to essentially launch those two divisions of the Skywards companies here in Ottawa. So that included simple things like sourcing office space and finding a home for the businesses, to populating staff, administrative duties, sales duties, just about everything. As an entrepreneur in a small company, we all know you can wear many hats. So that's essentially how I got the experience that I've got now, was just through essentially jumping right in and doing it. Yes.
I understand, Todd, that you have some Aboriginal background.
Yes, that's correct. My father's mother, so my grandmother was from Algonquin First Nation, so we're Algonquin and have some Métis heritage. Yes.
That's great. Tell me, knowing what you know today about the business, if you go back, say, 25 years ago, what would you have done differently in order to get to this point?
That's a good question. What would I have done differently? Let me stew on that one for a second.
Well, while you're stewing on that, perhaps I could ask something else. Where does leadership fit in positions such as you have now?
Leadership is very important, obviously. As a director, the people that report, to us, whether it's as a general manager position, in which case you have typically managers reporting to you, or a middle managerial position where you have staff reporting to you, people I have found they want direction. They want clear, concise direction. So that would be the first point, and the second point I've tried to adhere to through my career is lead by example. Again, people are looking to their supervisors for leadership, and I've always thought that to lead by example is the best way to communicate to your employees what you expect from them. If they see a person who works hard and is dedicated and is passionate, not only about the business, but about the business's clientele and about the employees within the business, I think that percolates down, and that mindset is relayed down throughout the company through all the various levels. So lead by example, and again, try whenever you can, however you can, to provide good direction, because it seems to me, in my experience, that's what I've learned. People excel the most if they've been given good, clear, concise direction. With that, of course, comes things like goals and targets, ambitions on an individual level, but that all falls into place, as I said, if direction is made clear.
Where does feedback come in for the leader?
Very important, because the feedback that we get from the people who report to us, there's a couple of layers to it, I find. First of all, those are the people that are immersed in the day-to-day operations of the business. They'll often have more firsthand experience with those day-to-day operations than people at an upper management level may. So again, those people have their fingers on the pulse of the business. So it's very important for managers to listen to them and to learn from them. Secondly, it's also important to listen to the creativity that they bring forward, and see how ideas from whether it be management or from staff, can improve situations, whether it be around the workplace with respect to morale, or whether it is with respect to things like new business initiatives, product development, client development. All these things are important to, I think, it gives the employees, that understanding that the experience that they've learned, the things that they're, bringing forward to the people that they report to, are being listened to and hopefully incorporated.
So what tactics, if I can use the word, should a manager use in order to make sure that he gets the best feedback possible from his employees or her employees?
Well, again, it kind of comes back to direction and a good corporate structure. We believe in systems. So that can be things as simple as regularly scheduled meetings on a weekly basis. Same day every week, same time every week, whether it be sales meetings or operational meetings. Those are important. Those are obviously a good forum for people to collectively sit together, speak to the challenges that they've faced, the issues that they're dealing with, and in a collaborative, cooperative environment, exchange ideas with each other. And see how problems can be solved and things can be improved.
How about walking the floor? In other words, going to the employee's workstation from time to time, not behind their back or anything else, but simply to say hello and see how things are going. Is that a good idea? Is that another way? Or?
I think so, and that speaks to what we talked about earlier with respect to listening to your people who are on the ground in the trenches on a daily basis, because they'll see things, they'll hear things that managers and supervisors may not on a daily basis. So absolutely, it's a good idea to familiarize yourself with the challenges that the employees at all aspects of the business are facing on a daily basis. If you're knowledgeable about the challenges that your people are facing, the overall benefit to the company, I think, is significant. And the best way to do that is to talk to people and see how things are going with them, what's troubling them, what challenges and difficulties they're facing, and how you might propose solutions to help.
So for the people listening to us and looking to get into business and so on and so forth, how should they prepare their leadership?
Well, it's obviously a good idea if you're starting or thinking of starting any business to have a good business plan. The other thing I would suggest strongly is look for and find a good mentor. I'm also a believer in not reinventing the wheel. And as I've gone through my business career, I've learned, call it wisdom, if you will, that comes from age and from experience, to learn from others. If someone's willing to help you and share their experiences and their trials and tribulations with you, it's foolish not to just take all of that in at any chance you have an opportunity to learn from someone. Who is in a position of mentorship like that is an excellent idea. So that would be my first recommendation, is to find a mentor and absolutely learn everything you can.
Earlier on, when you talked about your arrival in Ottawa and jumping into the trenches, if I can use the expression, to be the jack of all trades to get the company going and so on, there's two questions here, I suppose. There's the questions of the individual being able to meet the challenge. How does one prepare for that? And then afterwards, second question is meeting those challenges. Is it a 9-to-5 type job, or is it a 7-24 type job?
So it is, to speak to the first point, if entrepreneurship is an avenue that a person thinks that is where they want to go, you have to be mentally tough, because it's not easy, especially at the beginning. There is a lot of work, and no, it's not 9 to 5. It's whatever is warranted. That could be 6 a.m. to midnight. It could be 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Some days, of course, it's 9 to 5. But again, as an entrepreneur, you're not going to be faced with a scenario of a five-day work week, 9 to 5, 40 hours a day. You have to be prepared to come into work early and to work late. Certainly at the beginning. there are just a lot of challenges, a lot of learning to do, which is normal. But you just have to be mentally prepared for that, to know it's coming and to be ready to meet those challenges.
And I suppose that if one has a family, the family must understand the needs of the business and try to find a life-work type balance. Is two issues that need to be dealt with.
Absolutely. I have a wonderful family myself. I've got a wife and two teenage daughters. So, our family has grown, has evolved with the businesses. So they've been there since the very beginning. So in a scenario like that, it might be a little bit easier because, again, my kids have seen it right from the inception. They're in their teens now. But it is important. You have to, I believe strongly, you have to, regardless of the demands of the business, you still have to, be there with and for the family. I think it's extremely important. There's always a way to find time. And I think it's important, too, to communicate, whether it be to your spouse or to your children, that, there will be times where, your free time has to be diverted from the family and to the business. But as long as they understand that, in those times when you are working maybe on personal hours, on things related to the business, it's for the betterment of the family, really. And once that's understood, we all make concessions, and it works fine as long as there's lots of communication and as long as you do find time for family.
The need to be self-sufficient, where does that fit into entrepreneurship?
It's important, clearly. I mean, if you are going to be the person spearheading a new initiative or overseeing, a new group of people that you've assembled, to operate your business, self-sufficiency is important. And again, especially in those early days, right? You're going to be the person in charge of procurement, administration. If depending on the nature of the business, there will likely be a sales component in there as well. So there are a number of areas where, at the outset, in the early days, you're going to be wearing many hats, and that comes back to that mental toughness that I spoke about. As long as you sort of identify these things, appropriate your time properly, that's self-sufficiency is integral, but it also comes along with experience. And as as the weeks and the months go on, in any new business venture, you'll identify where the challenges are and what things are more easy, what things are more difficult. But you definitely have to be ready, willing and able to wear many hats, and essentially problem solve on a number of different levels.
So that's flexibility and open-mindedness. Where does tolerance for ambiguity fit in?
In what respect?
Well, life isn't black or white, particularly if you're an entrepreneur. It tends to be in the gray zones. So
I understand. So again, I think that comes back to listening to what the people around you are telling you, because you're absolutely right. Almost nothing is black and white. It would be nice if it were in a lot of cases, but as we know, in reality, it's often different shades of gray. And I think the best way to navigate those waters, again, is listening. The more feedback you can get from the people around you, the more clarity I think you can, in a collaborative environment, help bring to those issues which may not be black or white. Those sort of in between areas. If you can build consensus with the people that you've entrusted to help you operate your business, ambiguity will never disappear, but a good management strategy and philosophy, I think will help add as much clarity as possible to those areas that might not be one or the other.
To someone listening to us and wanting to start a creative type business, what would you suggest to them?
Well, they have to identify the need for the service that they're considering the product, whether it be goods or services. What's the need in the given market? Is it going to be a local kind of a business where you're operating solely within one market, or is it a regional type of a good or service, or national, or perhaps even international? So, the first thing to do, I think, would be to familiarize yourself and make sure you're very clear with respect to what it is your company is going to be offering to the marketplace, that there is an appetite for it in the marketplace, and that you are then able to identify, okay, well, what do I need to do, both in terms of the business model itself and the team of people that I need to assemble to satisfy those appetites that the marketplace will have for whatever it is that I'm going to be offering, be it goods or services.
So would it be a good idea, for example, if someone's product is something creative, to take that product and go out or that creativity piece and go out and test it in the marketplace before starting the business?
Focus groups are always a good idea. One thing that we see is when you're immersed so heavily in your particular business, sometimes the old saying of not seeing the trees through the forest can come into play. We get the blinders on, right, and we only see it from our point of view, because again, it's what we're entrenched in day to day. It's what we think about all of our waking hours. So it's a great idea to get feedback from people who are one or two steps removed from the business. They'll see things, they'll consider things that quite frankly might have been completely lost on yourself because of the fact that you're so heavily immersed in it on a daily basis.
One last question. Could you name one man or woman that you truly look up to, and why?
I would say I've always did look up to to Nelson Mandela would be an example of someone that I've always held in high regard. Someone who stood up for their ideals and what they believed in, who was willing to work with people who were not like-minded. In a way that he, in a constructive way, and who was willing to sacrifice clearly for his ideals and what he believed in. And at the end of the day, it was nice to see that eventually there was vindication for Mr. Mandela. So off the top of my head, he would be someone that I've always revered and had great admiration for.
Well, on that, I thank you very kindly, Todd. Today we were with Todd Bernard. Todd, the General Manager of Torres Media, Ottawa. Thank you.
Thank you.